All right, we're live here with just a quick little spur of the moment post from my phone from my basement here because another little fun toy project thing that has arrived here that just wanted to document a little bit of this, share a little bit of this, and again, these are kind of my plans, and we'll see if it goes anywhere. But I do have something on the workbench in front of me here. So, I think I've told the story a few times on the forums or on my shows or streams or things, but getting into quadraphonic sound was something of an accident, probably an inevitable accident, but an accident nonetheless. I had my friend Rob back in middle school, high school. He'd come into some stereo equipment and 8-track tapes that someone like gave him, and he didn't care at all about this stuff. And I'm not even sure how it came into his possession, but he had the stuff in his basement. Whenever I go hang out, him being the great friend he was, he goes, hey, I'll sell you all this stuff, he kind of saw this as some kind of a gold mine because what did he care about this stuff? He didn't, but I did, but I didn't have money. So, he's throwing out ridiculous numbers, ridiculous at the time, $50, $20, whatever. And I'm just like, I have a stereo, and I don't like Simon and Garfunkel, and I'm not so sure I need Captain and Tennille on 8-track. Now, of course, he asked me that today, and well, not the prices he was asking. So, anyways, I'm hanging out with him. He's trying to sell me this thing, and I fiddle around with it, play around with it in his basement, and of course, he tried to pull me away because he's bored watching me fiddle around with it, and then he just wants to sell it. And so at some point, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's not a bad looking receiver, and it's got a nice 8-track player in it, So I think I talked him down to like $5 or something, and it's like, all right. And so my mom comes to pick me up because this is before we're driving. This is like middle school years, and I go up, ask my mom if I can borrow $5 to buy the stereo off of him, and Rob's grandmother's like, he shouldn't sell that to you. He should just give that to you. He got that for free. He was such good friends. He should just give that to you. Why are you gonna buy? Why are you gonna sell that to him? So he gave it to me, and I didn't know it was quadraphonic at the time. I didn't know what quadraphonic was. I had never heard of a quadraphonic at the time, and but it had a SQ decoder built into it, and so it had a push button next to all the selector buttons that would turn the SQ on and off, and I had no idea what it was or what it was doing. And so I asked my dad to take a look at it and see if he could figure out what it was. And I remember he's kind of looking at the thing, and he's kind of scratching his head. And then he goes, "Oh, I think I know what this is." And he flips up the door to the 8-track deck and peeks inside there. And he goes, "Yeah, this is a quadraphonic receiver." Because he had saw that the head had four, it was a 4-track head rather than a stereo head, and so that I use it as basically a stereo receiver. I think I did hook up 4 speakers to it, but I didn't have any quad 8-track tapes or quad records. I still didn't know what SQ was, and so I used the SQ button on stereo things to try to get effects from it. But it wasn't until I got into college, got on the internet, and got onto eBay that I actually started, really getting into quad. But that was my quad receiver. It being an aging receiver, eventually started developing problems and slowly died. And eventually I replaced it with my second and third quad receivers. That's right. I had a Panasonic briefly that was a piece of crap. But then ultimately I got a Marantz. So anyways, the first quad receiver I had was a Masterwork. And I never saw another one since. And after it kind of died, I just kind of got rid of it. I was in college. It was one less thing to drag home with me when it stopped working. So I actually disassembled it, took off the faceplate to kind of keep something of it. And I took out I took the chips out of it. There were integrated chips in it. And I kind of wish I still had those, because I think I think they might be related to the SQ decoding, and I think the one I have in front of me, obviously that's where this conversation's going. It's not doing SQ, but we'll see what happens as I work on it. So yeah, I've always been, well, not always, more recently, yeah, I like rebuying the things I used to have that I don't have anymore. And so I found this on eBay. This is not exactly like the one I have. So let's flip the camera and look at what I have. Just need to figure out where the camera flip setting is. Oh, there we go. Under settings, camera, camera facing back. There we go. So this here is a Masterwork. What's the model number on this? Masterwork model 340. And I don't know what the model number was of the one that I had, but the one that I had looked almost exactly like this on the front, except that it didn't have a joystick. My guess would be this is a later model, because I would expect that the joysticks would have come later and they would have kept the joysticks. I suppose it's possible they ditched the joysticks, but I don't know. Obviously, if I see another one show up and I could get it for cheap that doesn't have the joystick, I'd probably jump at it, just because, you know, this, as cool as this is, it's not what I had. So in some ways it's an upgrade. In other ways it's a difference. And the other thing that's different is this one doesn't have a turntable built into it. Mine did have a turntable built into it. Here's the wood case, as you can see, is flat on top, no spot for a turntable, and it's, as a result, it's much shallower, because the one with the turntable would probably have the same circuit boards, but then some dead space and go out further back to accommodate the turntable on top. Of course, when I got the one that I had home, the turntable wouldn't work. It wouldn't turn. And so I think at some point I pulled that out, and I had another turntable that fit in there. But for the most part, at some point I picked up a Pioneer linear tracking, one of those linear tracking tables that has the tone arm built into the dust cover. And so since I was using that as my turntable, I had no interest. I just rested it on top where the turntable used to be. The original turntable was in that Masterwork. I pretty much ripped it out and just put a better turntable on top of the thing. So although I wouldn't mind taking one that has a turntable, my memories of using it are with a flat top and just resting a turntable on top. Anyways, this was on eBay as is, not working, described not working, and probably has issues. Basically, the description said sound fizzles out or something to that effect. And so as a result, it was actually listed for a reasonable price, because I don't get the people that try to sell average mid-budget range receivers from the 70s that have not been restored for $250 on eBay. Who's paying that? I don't think anyone is paying that. But this one was $30 plus $50 shipping. That's where, you know, this becomes a pain. So yeah, knowing that the previous person had turned it on, being that he described it fizzling out, I went ahead, plugged it in, turned it on, and it lights up, although one of the bulbs is dead, so I'm going to have to do that, replace that. And I have one speaker with a RCA connection on it. I got a pair of speakers over there that got stripped wires, and somewhere I've got adapters. But anyways, I got one speaker for testing, basically. And I'm getting sound. Got an FM tuner. Also got AM, of course. There we go.
Across the timeline to Moise Kitchell. He loses control, but gets in a skip pass to Marcone. Score for Marcone, 6-5, the sound. He just
So I'm getting sound, and it hasn't fizzled out on me, but being that it fizzled out for the previous person, I don't think it's just ready to plug in and go. I did open it up so I could take a look at it. My plan is this looks pretty easy to work on. And in that I can get these bundles of wires out of the way, maybe desolder a few things and take the screws out, get these boards up, take a close look at these capacitors, order a bunch. And I think these two modules are the power amp because they seem to go to the headphone jack, which then traces back to the speaker out. So I'm thinking that's my power amp with these transistors on top here. And then I think, probably over in here, we've got our switching mechanisms up front. So thinking preamp and SQ decoder and power stuff. And then over here is where obviously our variable capacitor for radio tuning is. So this is probably our radio tuning stuff, which I don't care enough about that to dig that out and try to refurbish that. But I think I'm going to start by taking these two modules out, getting a good close look at all the capacitors, getting a list together and replacing all those and seeing what that does. Although, like I said, I am getting audio.
Rapid and Gillis.
And I am getting audio out of all four channels. Because if I come over here to tape and throw in a Ford sampler I have handy for testing. So there's the front right. We'll move the wire over to the front. Front left. This is front right. And there's the rear one. Although we're between songs right now. Oh, well, I also got to wiggle the wires at times. So there's one, the rear left channel there. So it works. Now, two things that are also different about this model from the one I had. The one I had more complex mechanics in here for the switch between quad and stereo, and the head only moved into two positions. It would just use the right pair of spots on the head, depending on what channels it was playing on the stereo tape. And then when it was playing a quad tape, instead of lighting up just one or just two, it would light up 1 and 2 for program 1 and 3 and 4 for program 2, which is a little confusing and not accurate, but it was a way of indicating something. That must have been an older one. No joystick and the lights weren't exactly accurate. This one doesn't do that, though. This one does the thing where the head will move into 4 positions, and when a quad tape is in, it'll move through 3 and 4 back to 1. Because you could hear it did a lot of extra clicks there. So that's another difference that between the models. But it works. And now I remember when the one I had died, it didn't fizzle out. But fizzle suggests a transition from working to silence. Mine fizzled from working to distortion. And so I can't say for sure if the sound of this is accurate or not, because that's a pretty crappy speaker I got plugged into it right now. I mean, I don't know. Now, one other thing about this one, though, is this one, the SQ decoder is completely dead. If I come over here to, we'll come to FM for something stereo, or not quad, basically. And when the SQ decoder is off, this doesn't output anything. It outputs silence to the back. It doesn't do a double stereo. So if you don't have SQ, you only have 2 speakers working. So let's see if we can get a station in. All right, now we're going to go ahead and enable the SQ, and we get silence. And we get silence out of all 4 channels, front and back. So something's completely dead on the SQ decoder in this. And I honestly don't know. This has a few integrated circuits here that are in holders, so they pop out rather easily. And I remember popping those out of the old one I had before tossing it out and keeping them somewhere. And I remember I never was able to figure out what they were. I think I searched numbers, but never came up. And for some reason, I speculated maybe they're the SQ decoder chips. And the reason I speculate that is because that's what I wanted them to be, and that would have been really cool. But it also kind of makes sense because, I mean, amplification is transistors. Typically, which then again, these could be like op amp types things for preamp. I don't know. I really don't know much about how these are built. I'm basically going to just try my best to take the boards out of these, take a lot of pictures before desoldering wires to get the boards out, get a good listing of the capacitors, buy a bunch of capacitors, and replace them one by one, which is not too bad. We got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 per board here. So 30 capacitor swaps, and I got brand new caps on my power amps. Of course, you know, we'll see how that goes. But we're probably going to want to take this board out because I'm going to want to probably get new caps on the power supply and the preamps. There's a lot going on this board. So that's going to be the and then plus also I want to get a new light bulb there. Also, the belt was gone. There was no goo, no residue, no broken pieces, just gone. This was an old belt I happen to have hanging around that I think I replaced off of another machine, but this one just happens to be stretched to the right sides for this and works pretty good. I'll probably want to get a fresh, clean new belt on there anyways. And if I take this off, I think somewhere I saw, yeah, over here you can kind of see residue of where a stain that kind of curves down and off the wheel. So that's clearly where the belt fell. And the belt disintegrated. At some point it fell and left a little residue on the flywheel. Yeah, so that's my new project, toy, what have you. Similar enough to what I had that I wanted, and just different enough to drive me nuts, too. All right. Well, anyways, leave any comments if you want. Like and subscribe. I think I'm supposed to say that. Or like and don't subscribe, or subscribe and dislike. I don't know. Hit some buttons. All right. Well, I got to work on some things here. So I'm going to end this now and catch you all later.